So as promised, this is gonna be my first video about pregnancy and going through IVF that I'm gonna be making, which I hope to make a series of them. And if you're a subscriber and you have no idea what's going on, why am I talking about this? I did announce my pregnancy last week, I believe. I made a video about that. And I also told everybody that my husband and I, we actually need to go through IVF in order to conceive. So if you want to go check that out, you are my guest. And today I will be talking a little bit about IVF, just like generally how it works. And I want to give you a few tips if you are in the beginning, you know, if you're going through that, or if you think you need to go through it. And one thing that I just want to tell you right off the bat is whatever I'm going to tell you right now is based on my experience and my husband's experience, is personal, and also based on some things that I researched. So if there's anything that your doctor tells you that is different from that, listen to him, because he knows about your case and he knows what's going to work for you. First of all, infertility sucks. Yes, it does. If you always dreamed about having a family and then, you know, you find out that you need help, extra help, in order to conceive, it's hard. And I did talk more again, like about that, how we deal with that and how long it took us to find out that we would need to go through IVF in my previous video. So IVF. When we found out that we were not going to be able to conceive naturally, I went to look up what would be the options of making this happen, because we could still make it work, but there were a few options. One is through IUI, which is really quick here, is when you, and I'm going to be using my words to explain medical things, so just bear with me. So when they take the sperm and inject, pretty much just put into the woman, hoping that you know, the egg, whatever egg she has, is gonna fertilize. So it's just like sperm and get it, but the fertilization itself happens into the body, and it can happen 3 ways. One is just like that. You just need to track the woman's cycle to know when she's ovulating. The other way is giving the women drugs in order for her to not ovulate just one egg, how we usually do, unless, you know, you run like multiples run in your family. Usually we ovulate 1 egg a month, and in order to have more chances to get pregnant, they give her drugs so she can actually mature more eggs that cycle, and you know, the chances of getting pregnant are greater. And the third way is giving the man drugs so he produces more and better sperm, and do the woman drugs, and you know, so this way you can have like way more chances. So that's IUI. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough for us. We need to go through IVF. IVF stands for in vitro fertilization, which means not only the sperm needs to be taken out, but also the eggs. And they're fertilized in a glass. The vitro is like glass. So it's pretty much like outside of the body, you know, in a lab. So forget about all the romance and having a night, you know, drink wine and go to town and have a baby. Not our case. We wish we had that for fun, but not in order to conceive. So, all right. So the way that it works, it sounds so simple, but it is kind of not. The way that it works is, my husband didn't need to take any medication, because when you do IVF, you really don't need that many sperms for this to work, and you're gonna understand why. But the woman needs to take drugs, again, like for more eggs to mature. So going back to natural body, you know, biology, every month there are eggs in our ovaries, and then our brain sends information, to the hormones, whatever, and then one egg matures again, unless you have, you multiples run on your family, and you might ovulate 2 or 3 eggs at a time. That's when the age also plays a big role. When you hear that woman that is older, it's harder because the older you are, less eggs you produce every month. So the younger you are, more eggs, and the older you are, less eggs. And then there's also, like, if you have any other problems, which I wouldn't be able to name any right now, but there's other problems that can be going on, and you're not producing or you're not ovulating the way that you should. Okay, so first of all, you need to get all those eggs that, from all those eggs that just one would mature that month, you wanted them all to grow and mature. So them all can be, what's the name that they use? Retrieved. That's how we call it. So they can all be retrieved, and then with this sperm, they go and they fertilize them in the lab. So first, we call that phase stimulation, like STIM for short, of stimulation. So first is stimulation. After a few weeks, when the eggs are nice and big and the size that the doctor wants, you go in for a procedure. They usually knock you down, and usually they say, like, do not work, bed rest for like 2 days if possible. And again, depending how your body reacts and stuff, like, you're gonna feel more or less depending how many eggs you have. It might be tougher on you. So after they retrieve the eggs, that same day they get the sperm and they put them together to fertilize. Okay, so eggs in the lab, eggs and sperms having a party, trying to fertilize. There are 2 ways that they can fertilize. One, naturally, they just put them together and see, if they get along. And the other way, it's called ICSI, which is literally the lab guy gets the sperm and perforates the egg and drop it in there and, like, come on, make this work. And that's what we did. The chances are bigger. In our case, it made more sense. So again, like, just listen to your doctor and see what works best for you and your case. After that happens, you just need to wait and watch. So whichever ones got along, we don't call it embryos yet, because embryo is like a next phase, but we call them blastocysts. So they're gonna watch, and you're gonna see who are gonna become blastocysts and start to develop. Are you still with me on this? Okay, so after a few days, they go check, and some are just not gonna, just unfortunately gonna be discarded because it didn't work. And some are gonna start growing, and it's gonna start looking good. That's when the doctor makes a call if the woman is gonna go back and get the transfer, like we call it fresh transfer, right from the lab. They do the transfer, which is the insemination, and then hoping that it's gonna stay and then it's gonna pick up and she's gonna become pregnant. My case, fortunately, I had a lot of eggs, plus I was not used to medication, so my body suffered a little bit. My doctor asked me to just take a month break and give my uterus a little time. So the blastocysts that were looking good, they froze them, and we waited a cycle for me to do the insemination. Again, your doctor is gonna tell you what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Okay, so take drugs, It's about the injections, for the eggs to mature, it takes about 10 days. And then you get them retrieved, and then they put the sperm and the eggs together. We wait to see which one got along. We froze the good ones, and then I gave my body a cycle. So just to recap, and then when my uterus was ready again, we did the insemination. And after you do the insemination, after 2 weeks, you need to wait to see if it kind of like stuck inside of me, if survived inside of me, and if I was considered pregnant. Which, if you think about getting pregnant naturally, when you're ovulating, that's what would happen. You know, after like about 2 weeks when you get your period, you're gonna ovulate. That's with the window that you can get pregnant. And then 2 weeks after, when you miss your period, that's when you know if you got pregnant or not. So that's kind of the same thing when it comes to timing. So I did that procedure first time. It did not work. But our blastocysts were, you know, we had still some frozen. So I went for a second cycle, which didn't take much time. I didn't need to do all over again. I just need to do the transfer, and that's when it worked. And I am currently 17 weeks pregnant. Now, if you are gonna go through this, or if you just started, or if you're in the middle of the process, I just wanna say, start it with a positive mind. No matter what your case is, just start positive. Just think positive. Do everything you can to make this work. Now, at the same time, have a plan B. I always wanted to have children on my own, and I always considered to, you know, adopt, you know, but not because I couldn't have a children on my own, but just to have extra kids. And when we found out that we were gonna need to go through IVF and about the whole infertility thing, my plan B was, okay, if this doesn't work, if for some reason I don't have enough eggs, or I don't know, my body doesn't accept it, whatever. There's so many things that can happen. We had a plan B, which would be to adopt. I really think it's amazing when people think about adoption right out of the get-go. But again, like, if you are gonna try that, you know, it's your last resort, if you're gonna still try the IVF, go positive, but have a plan B just in case. I don't want to say that to make anybody like sad or anything, but it's just a way for me was like, okay, if this doesn't work, there's something else out there, you know? And actually that kept us going. And I do have a few tips to share with you prior to start. So first and most important of all, keep the communication open between you and your husband, or you and your partner. You know, if you're the same sex and you're doing IVF, because naturally you can conceive as well. Keep your communication open, because whoever is gonna go through the whole injections and the hormones and all that, you can get crazy sometimes. You can go bananas, you can get nasty. Everybody just reacts differently, you know, to the drugs. So make sure that your partner knows that it's, if you like flip out, it's not necessarily anything personal. It's just that physically emotional thing that you're going through, and sometimes you just cannot control. So it's not personal. And on the other part, that it's probably tough too, because I can't even imagine my husband, like, he did the injections, that's probably, it sucked too, because he was the one, he couldn't do anything. The only thing that he could do was like give me the injections, but I mean, like the pain, you know, and the cramps and the procedures and, you know, being knocked out and all of that I was going through. I think it's super hard too, to watch the one you love going through this. It's not easy. So make sure the communication is open and you both are clear on, you know, about like what you're doing, that you're doing this together and you're gonna go through it. No matter what happens at the end, you know, it doesn't matter, you're still together and you're there for each other. So that's really important. Now, tip number 2, and I have 6, so just hang in there. And that's really important too. Check all the details about like your insurance, what covers or not, and be prepared to have some extra money that you're probably going to be paid out of pocket. Why do I say that? Sometimes insurance, they pay for the procedures, but they don't pay for medications. Sometimes they pay for specific medications, but they don't pay for other medications. Sometimes they will pay for the procedures, but they're not gonna pay for the anesthesia, you know, because sometimes they do tercerize, like the anesthesia, they do through a third party. So there's so many details. So try to get as many details and everything written down, meet with somebody from insurance if possible, get everything that you can, all the information to know, figure out your budget, but also make sure that you have extra. Don't stay on that number, because I'm sorry to say that there's probably gonna have some surprise bills are gonna be coming because you froze the eggs, because you needed to wait a cycle, because you need to freeze a second batch of sperm. There are so many things that can happen through the process, or extra procedures or extra exams. Just make sure that you have some extra saved on top of, you already found out through the insurance that you're going to need to pay extra, so you're not stressing out about money throughout this whole process. Promise me? Good, thank you. Okay, so next one is make sure you love your doctor. Frank and I, we went to talk to a doctor. Somebody recommended him to us that worked with that couple, but when we met him, we were like, you're not crazy about him. I don't know, it just didn't click. So then we found another one also close by, and we absolutely loved him. I don't know, like it was just different. And then we felt comfortable talking to him, and it was just different. So we felt that was going to be our home for the next few months. Other thing that was really important, and I'm so glad that it happened, and we had that at our case. We had a signed nurse. And what that means is there was a nurse signed to us. So anything we needed, I have like the email and the phone number of this specific nurse, and she was taking care of our case. I've heard of cases that, and it's sad because again, like that's the last thing that you want to worry about. But people that I know that went to doctors and they didn't have that, so they called to ask a question about timing or about like how many, like the volume of the medication they need to take and all that stuff. And people would need to like pull out their file and look it up and talk and ask questions. Like if there is any way that you can make sure that your doctor, he has a team and you have a signed nurse, that was amazing. It helped so much. I'm sure, now I know that not all offices have it, but if you can find one that does, it's gonna make your life easier as well. Next one is make a diary. I'm not saying you should like write everything down, but every other day or something, just write down how you feel. If something happened, if you have a spotting, if you had a bleeding, because when you want to talk to your nurse, and when you want to talk to your doctor, or when you have any questions, you want to make sure that you don't forget anything. You don't want to get home and like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask about, I don't know, the size of the needle, if I can change or something like that. So definitely make a diary. Other one is let people from work know what you're going through and that you're going through IVF or IUI. Because like in my case, I was very fortunate because I teach my classes and I have some friends that are also Zoom instructors that they could sub for me, and I felt comfortable telling them about it. So they were super helpful and they covered my classes, and I also talked to my fitness group director, and she was amazing as well. And then I do work as a freelancer with home decoration, so that was easy because I make my own schedule. So I just schedule appointments and visits and all that according to my schedule. And then I also have another business, and same thing, but it's mine, and I did that, I put that on hold for a little bit, but then I started again after I was done with the process. So for me it was kind of easy because I had that the timing, like my schedule allowed me to. But if you work a 9 to 5, just make sure that maybe somebody that sits by you, or your partner at work, co-workers, or your boss, I don't know, pick the people that you think it's necessary to tell, but tell them, because again, you might get frustrated with some things. You might be crampy another day. You might get nasty another day. Like, you don't know how your body is going to respond to the drugs, and you want to make sure that you're not causing any problems. And again, just to avoid more stress while going through the process of IVF. All right, and last but not least, is that how you say it, people, Americans? Have someone close that you can talk to. I feel like my friends knew that we were gonna go, through the procedures, just like closer friends. But for example, for my mom, she knew, and it was really important for me to have her, for example, to talk to, because again, Frank and I would talk about things, but sometimes, like woman to woman, I just need to have that other person. Remember that you cannot expect them to understand what you're going through, because nobody will. But just somebody that can be positive, and it can be a friend, a close friend, it can be a relative, it can be, a sibling, it can be whoever you feel comfortable talking to. Like I said, a few people knew, but it's just hard to talk about that with people because, it's just so much going on. But my mom, thanks Mom, was definitely one that I, would open up if I needed some extra help. So again, like, I hope this helped somehow. If you just found out that you need to go through IVF, or if you're going through it, I will be doing more videos about it, and I am gonna make one just about like the stimulation phase. I'm gonna make one, like with the retrieval date, different ones. But if you do have any questions about anything that I spoke on this video today, please comment below. I promise I won't tell anybody who you are, but comment below. If you really don't feel comfortable, you can just like try to reach out on Facebook. It's kind of hard for me to keep up with Facebook, but try to find me on Facebook, and I'll try to get back to you. But here it will be easier, and maybe somebody that has the same question, can read through and get the answer that they need. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. It is free, and the only thing is that you're gonna get a notification via email every time that I post something. Give me thumbs up if what I said made sense. If you liked what I said, or if you just want to make me happy, and I will be talking to you soon. So again, good luck if you're going through this. Ask me any questions that you might have, and have a wonderful, awesome, amazing day, guys. Bye.